The day the doctor said the word cancer, I felt the world shrink around me. It wasn't the loud, dramatic kind of pain. It was quiet, like someone had turned off all the sounds in the world and left me standing alone in silence. I sat there in the small hospital room, staring at the white walls as the doctor explained treatment options, survival chances, medical terms I didn't understand. I nodded, pretending to listen, but inside, I was only hearing one thing: you're going to die. I had always been strong. I raised 3 children alone after my husband died in an accident 30 years ago. I worked 2 jobs, skipped meals so they could eat, and sewed clothes at night to pay for their school. I thought, if I can survive that, I can survive anything. But cancer? Cancer felt like betrayal by my own body, by life, by fate. When I told my children, Mark, Lisa, and Peter, I expected tears, comfort, maybe even a hug. Instead, I got silence. Lisa sighed and said, "Mom, you'll be fine. Just do what the doctor says." Mark frowned, checking his phone. "How bad is it exactly? I have a lot on my plate right now." And Peter, he didn't even call, just texted, "Hope it's not serious." I smiled through it, as I always did. "Don't worry, my loves," I said. "It's nothing I can't handle." But that night, when I came home, the loneliness hit harder than the pain in my body. The house was quiet, too quiet. The clock ticked, the wind brushed against the window, and I sat at the kitchen table staring at the bottle of pills the doctor had given me. I thought about calling one of them again, but I didn't, because for the first time in my life, I realized I wasn't needed anymore. Weeks passed. My body grew weaker. I tried cooking, cleaning, pretending to be fine, but sometimes the pain bent me in half. Still, I smiled at the neighbors, hid the trembling in my hands, and whispered prayers at night. When the chemotherapy began, I begged Mark to drive me to the hospital. He said, "Mom, I can't keep missing work. Take a taxi." Lisa said, "Mom, I've got the kids, you know that." So I took the bus, alone, wearing a scarf to hide my hair that was beginning to fall. Every stop felt like a lifetime. People stared, some offered a seat, some didn't. I learned how to walk slow, how to breathe through pain, and how to keep my tears hidden behind my glasses. One evening, after another exhausting session, I fainted on the street. When I woke up, I wasn't in the hospital. I was lying in a small shop, surrounded by the smell of herbs and tea leaves, and a woman was holding my hand, whispering, "You're safe now." That was the night I met Nadia, a stranger who would change my life forever. When I woke up, everything felt hazy. The air smelled faintly of mint and old wood, and I could hear the soft creak of a ceiling fan turning above me. My body ached, but for the first time in weeks, I didn't feel afraid. A woman with silver-streaked hair and kind eyes was sitting beside me, holding a cup of steaming tea. "Easy now," she said softly. "You fainted outside my shop. You're lucky someone noticed." Her voice had a warmth I hadn't heard in years. I blinked, trying to focus. "Where am I?" She smiled. "Herbal shop. Mine. Name's Nadia. You're Evelyn, right? Your ID was in your purse?" I sat up slowly, embarrassed and weak. "Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to trouble you." "You didn't," Nadia said, handing me the tea. "You needed help, and I was here." Those words hit me harder than I expected. You needed help, and I was here. My own children hadn't said that. Not once. Nadia's shop was small, shelves stacked with glass jars, each filled with herbs, roots, and dried flowers. It felt like stepping into another world. She watched me sip the tea, nodding approvingly. "It's for strength. Your body's fighting something, isn't it?" I hesitated. Then, with a trembling breath, I whispered, "Cancer." Her eyes softened, but she didn't flinch. She said, "Then you need more than medicine. You need company." That evening, she insisted on walking me home. When she saw my tiny house, quiet, dim, full of dust and photographs, she looked around and said, "You shouldn't be alone as much." I smiled weakly. "I've been alone most of my life." Nadia glanced at the family photos on the wall. 3 children, smiling with me at different ages. "And where are they?" she asked gently. I swallowed hard. "Busy," I lied. She didn't push further, but her silence said she understood. From that day, Nadia visited every morning. Sometimes she brought soup. Sometimes she just sat with me while I watched the sunrise through the curtains. She told me about her late husband, about how she started her herbal shop after losing him, how she believed people were put in our paths for a reason. At first, I thought she pitied me, but soon I realized it wasn't pity. It was care. Simple, genuine care. One afternoon, after chemotherapy, I came home feeling weaker than ever. My reflection in the mirror startled me. Pale skin, thin frame, scarf wrapped tight over my bald head. I felt like a ghost. That night, I cried harder than I had in years. The next morning, Nadia came over and found me still sitting on the floor. She didn't say a word. She just knelt beside me, wiped my tears, and said, "You are still you, Evelyn. Strong, brave. You are more alive than you think." Something inside me broke, but it wasn't pain this time. It was relief. Over the next few weeks, I started to change. I cooked small meals again. I took slow walks to Nadia's shop, and sometimes she let me help, labeling jars, cleaning counters. The work distracted me from the fear. I began to smile again. One day, Nadia looked at me and said, "See, you're not dying, you're fighting." Her words stayed with me. That night, I stood by my window, looking up at the stars, and whispered, "I'm still here." But just as life began to feel peaceful again, I received a phone call from my son, Mark. His voice was cold, unfamiliar. "Mom," he said, "we need to talk. It's about the house." And just like that, the quiet peace I had built began to tremble again. When I hung up the phone that evening, my hands were shaking. The word house echoed in my ears like a threat. My children hadn't called me in months, not when I was sick, not when I could barely stand, not even when I was admitted to the hospital. But now, suddenly, they wanted to talk. I spent the night pacing. The house that once echoed with laughter now felt heavy with ghosts of memories. Birthday candles, bedtime stories, the smell of pancakes on Sunday mornings. Every corner whispered, "Why weren't they here when you needed them most?" The next morning, Mark arrived first. His suit was sharp, his smile fake. He didn't even hug me. He just looked around the house like an appraiser evaluating property. "Mom, you look okay," he said, setting his phone on the table. "Okay?" I laughed bitterly. "You mean not dead yet?" He blinked, startled, then forced a smile. "You know I didn't mean it that way. It's just been busy. Work, kids." "Busy while your mother was fighting cancer?" I interrupted, my voice trembling. He sighed and looked away. "Let's not do this right now. I came to talk about something important." Before I could answer, the front door opened. My daughter, Claire, walked in, perfume heavy, designer bag slung over her shoulder. She looked at me, her face a mix of guilt and calculation. "Mom, you look tired. Are you eating enough?" I stared at her. "You remember how to ask that question?" Her smile faltered. I've been meaning to visit, really." I glanced between them, my grown children, strangers wearing familiar faces.
The silence grew thick until Mark cleared his throat. "Mum, we've been talking." He glanced at Claire. "This house, it's too big for you. You're sick, you live alone, and, I asked, narrowing my eyes. "And we think it's time you move into assisted living." Claire finished, trying to sound kind. "You'll have nurses, people around you. It's safer." My heart dropped. "Assisted living?" I repeated slowly. "You mean a nursing home?" Mark nodded. "It's what's best. We can handle everything. The sale of the house, your things." "Sale?" I snapped. "You want to sell my home?" He avoided my gaze. "It's too much for you, Mum. And with your condition, it's not practical. We can use the money to—" "To what?" I interrupted, voice breaking. "To make your lives more comfortable? To buy new cars? To pay for your children's schools? Tell me, Mark, what do you need my house for that you couldn't earn yourselves?" Claire stepped forward, her voice trembling slightly. "It's not like that. We're just trying to help." "Help?" I whispered. "Where was this help when I was sick and alone? When I couldn't even lift a pot to make soup? When I lay in bed wondering if I'd die without anyone knowing?" Neither of them spoke. The anger burned through me, hot and sharp. "You didn't come for me. You came for what's left of me." Claire's eyes glistened. "Mom, please, don't make this harder than it needs to be. It's already hard. It's been hard since the day you both stopped being my children and became strangers with my last name." Mark finally snapped. "Fine, stay here and rot then, but don't expect us to clean up after you when something happens." The words hit me like a slap. I turned away, unable to look at him. "Get out," I whispered. "Both of you." They hesitated, but when they saw the fury in my eyes, they left, the door slamming shut behind them. For a long time, I just stood there, the quiet pressing down like a weight. My hands trembled, my breath came shallow. Then I heard the door creak open again. My heart stopped, but it wasn't them. It was Nadia, standing in the doorway, her face full of worry. I heard shouting, "Are you all right?" I tried to smile, but tears spilled down my cheeks. "No," I whispered, "but I will be. Then we'll make sure of it." That night, for the first time, I realized that family wasn't always the people who shared your blood. Sometimes it was the ones who showed up when no one else did. But I had no idea what my children were planning next. And soon, I'd learn just how far greed can go, even when it wears the face of your own flesh and blood.
I didn't sleep that night. The argument with Mark and Claire replayed in my head like a broken record. Every word, every cold glance, every hollow excuse. I sat by the window, staring at the stars through the fog of my tears, asking the silence the same question, over and over. How did I raise children who could treat me like this? The next morning, the house felt colder. I tried to distract myself with chores, but everything reminded me of them. The photo of their childhood birthdays, the marks on the wall where I had measured their height, the empty chairs at the kitchen table. By afternoon, I got a call. The number was unfamiliar. "Mrs. Helen," the voice said. "This is Officer Reynolds from the county police. We'd like to ask you a few questions about your son and daughter." My heart dropped. "What's wrong? Did something happen?" "There's been a complaint," he said. "We'd prefer to discuss it in person." When I arrived at the small police station, the air felt heavy with something I couldn't name. The officer led me to a quiet room and sat down across from me. He looked uncomfortable, like he didn't want to be the one saying what he had to. "Mrs. Helen," he began gently, "do you know if your children have been trying to sell your property?" I froze. "Yes," I said cautiously. "They tried to convince me yesterday to move out so they could sell it. Why?" He nodded slowly.
We received a report that someone attempted to falsify ownership documents for your property. Your signature was forged. The room spun. Forged? I whispered. They tried to steal it? He nodded again. It appears that way. The notary noticed inconsistencies and alerted us. We're investigating. My chest felt tight. My own children, the ones I carried in my arms, fed, protected, loved, now sitting somewhere plotting how to erase me from my own home. I don't want to press charges, I said quietly after a moment, but I do want the truth to find them. The officer gave me a sympathetic look. Sometimes the truth has its own way of finding people, ma'am. He was right. A week later, I was watering the small garden in front of my house when a car pulled up. It was Mark's. But he wasn't alone. Claire stepped out too, her face pale, eyes wide. "Mom?" She called, rushing toward me. "We need your help." I didn't answer. I just looked at them. "What happened?" I asked flatly. Mark ran hand through his hair. "Mom, they froze my accounts. The police, they think we forged your documents. You need to tell them it's a misunderstanding." I stood there, silent. The irony of it all was almost cruel. The house they wanted so badly to sell, now standing between them and their greed. Claire was crying. "Please, Mom, we didn't mean for it to go this far. It was Mark's idea. Don't you dare," Mark snapped. "You signed everything too." Their argument broke out right in front of me, their faces twisted with blame. I watched them. The children I had loved more than life itself, tearing into each other, and suddenly I didn't feel pain anymore, just pity. When they finally turned to me, breathless, desperate, I spoke quietly. "You both wanted my house. You thought it was just wood and walls. But this place is my life. Every brick has a memory you don't even remember. You wanted to take it from me, and now look what you've lost." Claire fell to her knees, sobbing. Mark looked away, ashamed, maybe for the first time. "I forgive you," I whispered. "But forgiveness doesn't erase what you've done. It just frees me from carrying it." They didn't respond, and maybe that was for the best. That night, after they left, not with rage this time, but silence, I sat on my porch with a blanket around my shoulders. The wind was cool and the stars looked brighter than they had in months. I thought about Nadia, about how she had saved me when my own children wouldn't, about how strangers sometimes show more kindness than blood. I smiled, not out of joy, but out of peace. Because in the end, I didn't need revenge. Life had already done the work for me. And for the first time in a long time, I finally felt free.